Dolphins stand to unite. Miami stands to fight. Lights burn bright. From the water they rise, fins cut the air. Storming fields.
You started it. I told you don't do it. I said don't do it.
I love our post-game music. That's the only reason I'm here tonight is our beautiful post-game show music.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a somber Miami Dolphins post-game show here on FTSN. The Miami Dolphins, of course, do what they do best, and that is disappoint. And the Dolphins make me cry. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. Dolphins, I had prediction was 17-16 Miami. Miami couldn't even score 7 extra points. I gave them too much credit. Dolphins lose 16-10 against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, my goodness. The title of the show is the Dolphins fumble away a win in Indy because they had so many chances to win. They had so many opportunities to do it. Indianapolis was not good. Anthony Richardson was not good. I mean, and he kept doing his stupid dancing and celebrating every time there was a positive play. It's like, dude, you had nothing to do with it. But he had every right because they ended up pulling off the W. Richardson finished 10 of 24, 129 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 59.2 rating. But he did have 56 yards on the ground, as did Tyler Godson as well. Tyler Huntley, 7 to 13, 87 yards, a touchdown, 100.5 quarterback rating, injured through the halfway point of that game, injured his shoulder, did not return. Tim Boyle came in, finished 8 of 13, 74 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Devon Achane returns 77 yards, Raheem Mostert 50 yards, but a costly fumble from your two trusted vets in Raheem Mostert and Alec Ingold that were costly. Jalen Wright, 5 of 33. Huntley had 20 yards rushing, and Tyreek Hill had 5 yards rushing. Jonnu Smith was our leading receiver. It was cool to see that. If you're going to look for a bright spot, Jonnu Smith, 7 receptions at 96 yards and a touchdown. I did not even see he caught it. I thought it was a pick, and all of a sudden he snuck into the end zone. That's great for him as we continue to move on. Jalen Waddle only targeted once. Tyreek only targeted once. Julian Hill, I didn't want to, I'm not going to take that away from Evan, but I'll say this and I'll let Evan follow it up later on. I don't know how the hell he's still on the roster. He has more penalties than he has yards and receptions on this team this season. Absolute embarrassment by the Miami Dolphins. We did have some, and Costanza, we don't really like to throw anybody under the bus, no pun intended, for the bandwagon, but a lot of our fellow Dolph fans said 28-10, 28-21. I know I didn't point to you. Now you did have it 27-13 Indy, so you were wrong there. And you gave Miami a little too much credit, give him 3 extra points. But still,
that was McDaniel's goal anyways. He was trying to get to 13 points, dumbass.
Listen.
Him, not you.
Look, I know you don't have to correct yourself. I could take it. But I know you were talking about me. Yeah, so Miami fall to 2-4 on the season. They're 1-2 away now, away from home. Backing Up Binge Podcast, great to see you. Ben, as always. Orion, thank you for watching. Everyone who's tuning in right now, wherever you're watching, we appreciate you. If you're watching from Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we appreciate you. Hop on over to YouTube if possible. Just hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the show and the channel. That's the one and only Fitz Stanza on Bobby Fitz Talk. As we get this ball rolling here, maybe we might be joined by Greg in
internet issues. He's having a few internet
issues. Well, if he can, that's great. If can't, no worries. He pops in on overtime.
Poor him. He was at the game. Poor him.
He was at the game. Steve Malloy in the house, host of Real Talk Fitz Talk.
Well, I'm going to go all Malloy on you right now.
So, look, I didn't expect a lot, right? I mean, again, 17-16 is not a lot. And I know some people were like, dude, you're that's, Miami's going to score more than that. He's been 3 weeks in the offense and this. Miami has shown they can't. Even with Tua, they can't get over 20 points. So 17 points, I thought was a pretty fair number to say, hey, you know what? Just do that. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't score in spite of their defense playing as well as they did at some points to get the ball back, to stop them at certain points. I mean, there was like no chance. And I'm not going to take this from you. I'm just going to say this and then I follow up. This was by one of, not want to say by far, because I'm sure there's worse, but the decision making, play calling continued to be a hindrance. I know there are some things there were things I was watching and I automatically thought of you. And I know you were blessed to be busy today, that you were following up, and I know you caught up after.
I had a bad day, so
I know.
Personally, with my hockey game, it didn't go as well as I wanted with my kids, and they were frustrating some issues. So I thought maybe when I turned back on my phone after, because I didn't watch second half, and then it was still like in the fourth quarter with a couple minutes left, that I would actually have something to be joyful about. I am physically, I am ill by this football team.
Yeah.
They have physically made me ill. They're supposed to be. You're going to let me go, and I'll explain it in a second.
No, you're okay. You're okay. You're good.
Before I go on my rant, I will.
Yeah, I just want to say, the truth is this. Okay, I'm gonna say this, Evan, and then you just let me finish with the second point. Right now, Tua is more than likely going to come back next week, possibly, even though Mike Daniel won't confirm it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he'll save us. I've seen some tweets like this. If you think for one moment that the problems aren't bigger than Tua, that if you really think Tua's going to come and save it, you're living in a fantasy world. There are bigger issues here than Tua Tagovailoa in the quarterback position. The quarterback position is a huge issue, especially McDaniel thinking, hey, let me go into this season with third stringers and practice squad players playing our backup quarterback position. But play calling, I don't know what's going on. Again, I don't know how many press conferences McDaniel has to come in and say, I got to figure out a way to get Tyreek and Waddle involved more. He's said that week after week. Yet, I said this. I know you were saying, and you didn't want deep balls, but you were like, I don't want no checkdowns. I don't want no screens at this. But I said, short, sweet, and to the point. Waddle and Hill, especially Hill, are weapons enough to have so much speed that you could catch them underneath and allow them to have big plays. Why in the hell, with Tim Boyle at quarterback, are you having them push deep and no one is under for the check down? There are multiple plays in that type of situation with this Indianapolis Colts defense ranked 30th in the NFL. The problems in Miami are bigger than Tua Tagovailoa. I find it hard to believe that he could save the season, or he will do anything enough to save this football season. He might help you beat the bad teams like in Indy. Whoop-de-doo. But can he help you beat a team like Buffalo? Couldn't do it when he was healthy. It's going to be tough. Because this game was proof. This was a game you could have won, because guess what? Indy gave you every opportunity to win. What did I say? I know I said this on Fitz Talk today. I think it was Fitz Talk today. I said it might be a field goal game, but I say don't make it a 54, 56, 58, 59. No, move the ball upfield. It's 4th and 1. And you go for a 54-yarder. Anyway, I'm not taking anything away from you because I know where you're going.
No, you don't know where I'm going.
But yeah.
I'm going to start off backwards when you tell me to go.
Okay. Anyway, there's more to say. First off, I see Bruce Lee in the house. He says, I love Tua, but he's going to get himself killed basically on the field. What quarterback could last 2 games on this squad? Nobody, apparently. And guess what? And again, injuries on the offense. No, it has nothing to do with injuries on offensive line. They chose this offensive line. I did see that Tarm Garfunkel, there was a tweet out there that Garfunkel, Ross, and Greer went in the coach's locker room.
They went to the post-game meal.
There you go. I could believe it when you see them laughing on the sideline. McDaniel, Hill.
They are an embarrassment. Honestly, all they care about is money.
I'm going to mute my mic. I might put down my headset for just a bit because I know my brother's going to go nuts. And it's not that I don't
but I
love
have
him.
to look at your beautiful face. I'm talking. So
I'm here. I won't leave. I won't leave.
You don't want to hear me?
No, I'm going to hear you. I'm just saying in case I have to go like this because, But anyway, the floor is now yours, Evan. Roll it.
Hello, everyone. So I missed part of the game. Thank God. But I left at the exact perfect time for me not to lose my stuff. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start from all different sets of positioning, and I'll go from there. Let's start off with special teams. 2 weeks ago, we did a post-game show where we made it very, very clear the special teams were a major hindrance on this football team. They are a problem. Jake Bailey today gets a good punt, then pooches it the rest of the time. Then Julian Hill, how do you go offside? I want to make it clear. I want to make a stat for everyone, and then we'll get 67. I'm going to get to it at the end. 67% of our penalties, and we're the leader in the league, have been pre-snap. We'll get what the cause of that is. We have learned, and I got off the Jason Sanders train of insults last season midway when he started kicking. But that was when he was kicking 40s. He is not a guy who typically kicks in the 50s to win you football games. 2 weeks in a row, he's doinked it or missed in the mid-50s. And at the point of that game, when I recapped the game and I watched the rest of it, and I saw when he went for it, you had Tim Boyle in the game. And instead of going for the win there on 4th and inches, you have Jason Sanders try to tie you the football game at 13-13. You may not get the ball back. You don't know. And you have Tim Boyle in the lineup. What are you thinking? So from a special teams perspective, that is a failure, not just on Danny Crossman, but on Mike McDaniel. Now let's move to the defense. The defense did what they could. But when they started getting to Anthony Richardson, instead of tackling him up here, maybe go for his leg so he trips. Chop Robinson, I know Bobby and I talked to before we came on air. Oh, he's rookie. He literally turned a 3-yard loss into an 11-yard gain because he couldn't keep his hands off of Anthony Richardson. He is awful in the run game. There was no pressure, not one sack from our edge rushers today. They could have completely flipped the game and in spite of our offense, done something. How, when you are winning 10-0, does Anthony Weaver allow that soft zone crap to allow them to get a 33-yard gain to kick a field goal to give them a momentum going into the half versus it being a shutout? You give them 3 points. You just hand them 3 points. Mike McDaniel has done that so many times in his career as the head coach of this team. It's absolutely ridiculous. Our overall defensive numbers were awful today. Our fumble was because of a bad snap, not because we caused it. Did they do their job? Sure, as best as they could. But in terms of actual defense, they were nothing to write home about. They didn't create turnovers, no interceptions, no nothing. And this was a pedestrian offense from the Indianapolis Colts. But when we needed them to get a stop, like on that touchdown after the fumble, they couldn't do it. We gave up the 7 points. Okay? Now let's move to the offense. Let's move to the wide receivers. Wes Welker, I'm sorry, Wes Welker, you're not doing your job. Why? How you have your $50 million wide receivers getting a total of 2 targets today. And on the one pass that Tyler Huntley threw to Tyreek Hill, that was actually a beautiful pass from him, Hill looked lost. It was on him. That wasn't on Tyler Huntley. That was 100% on Tyreek Hill. Those 2 wide receivers sitting on the bench, laughing, joking, they are an embarrassment to the Miami Dolphins right now. They care more about their paycheck than about winning. They could not care less about winning. These are the same guys who, when they on 3rd down, get off the field because they ran too hard. You're talking about 2 super athletes who get off the field. Now let's talk about the tight ends. We were hard on Danny Crossman. Do you know who actually should be fired on top of Danny Crossman? No one's ever brought up his name on this network. His name is John Embry. And why is John Embry? And Alan, When are you going to come on our show, Alan? I have been begging you. I'll come on All Dolphins podcast. I'm wearing this for you, Alan. I had your osmosis. I already watched your show with Levitka. I love you, Alan. You're my fellow Montrealer. When are we going to do something? I DM this guy so many times. I love Alan Poupart. Read him every single day. When is he going to join us, Bobby? I want to do something with Alan. He's the best.
Thank you for watching, Alan. We appreciate you.
We love
brother.
you, Alan Poupart. You're the best. So I have about 5 or 6 of these. I'll send you one, Alan. Come on the show. Or I'll come on the All Dolphins, whatever you want. So, Bobby, let's talk about the wide receiver core, the tight end core. Tanner Connor has been a 3-year project that is supposed to have converted by now. Useless. In terms of Durham Smythe, let's figure it out. I'll DM you after the show. Durham Smythe, how the penalties that he takes. This guy has done nothing for us all season. Nothing for us last season. Julian Hill, penalty after penalty after penalty on special teams, on offense. Absolute. And it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Guys, don't forget to check. Oh, by the way, I'm going to give a plug. If you want to watch All Dolphins content, you want the best content, the greatest news, everything you want to know, you go to All Dolphins on Sports Illustrated. Every day there's different shows. You want to hear it straight up, not a guy who's a transplant from Montreal, Quebec, our hometown, all the way to Florida, has been there forever. He's gone through more hell than any of us. Go check out All Dolphins. What a great job he's doing. John Embry should be fired. He is the assistant head coach. He's an extension of Mike McDaniel. If Mike McDaniel wasn't there, he would be the person in charge. He has done nothing to improve our tight ends. Yes, has Jonnu Smith gotten more involved? Yes. But on the blocking perspective, as a tight end, as an overall use in terms of blocking, useless. Nothing. Offensive line. Nothing special. But Liam Eichenberg, a face mask penalty. Butch Berry is not continuing to develop this offensive line core. Running game. One thing about the chop block, that was a BS call. I won't blame that on them. But the running game. Sorry, who were the leaders last week in the running game? I understand he had a concussion and he's back, but why does somebody think that Javon Aiken is RB1? Until someone tells me otherwise, Mostert should be our RB1. But he had a tendency to fumble. On that play where he fumbled, there were guys around him. He should have fallen. It was on him that he fumbled there. But that is a brain fart on him. Alec Ingold, I do not know what they were doing on first down on the goal line there. Bad play on him. Bad play on Mike McDaniel. We'll get to McDaniel soon. Jalen Wright did not see the football to the second half. A guy who was your leader, our number 1 yards per carry guy last week, and this week. The guy you draft in the 3rd round, you don't use? You don't use the guy who's actually working for you? Unbelievable. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. No accountability, McMoron. Now, I'm on this network where I'm not a professional writing for a newspaper or writing so I can be a little more frank about this. But Mike McDaniel has never been a play caller before this year, ever. A lot of them have been. All these other ones who have worked out in the NFL, he hasn't been. He is by far the worst play caller in the history of football, because there's a guy backstage right now who I love and adore, who's taught me a lot in a short time. That's the only thing Brett Legassi's ever done good for me. Just kidding, Brett. Who has basically said, they'll let you run the ball all day. If you run the ball all day, they'll take it because you're wasting time off the clock. But at one point, you have to throw the goddamn football, Mike McDaniel. At no point are you throwing normal passes, or at no point are you adjusting to the feel of the game. At no point are you doing anything to make your players accountable for anything that they're doing. They'll let you run all day. They let you, the last 2 weeks, they let you run. You ran for almost 200 yards a game, and you almost lost both. And you lost one, and you should have lost the other. We should be 0-6. If you really think about it, we shouldn't even be 2-4. We should be 0-6. That's how bad he's been as a play caller and as a head coach. And the lack of accountability he has. It doesn't matter if you're Julian Hill, Danny Crossman, Jason Sanders, Jake Bailey, Liam Eichenberg, Robert Jones, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Chop Robinson, Javon Holland, Jalen Ramsey, Teron Armstead. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't care who you are. He gives the same benefit of the doubt to Julian Hill as he gives to Teron Armstead or Jalen Ramsey. When a guy makes a bad play, you sit the guy. Julian Hill gets more playing time when he does something wrong. Jalen Meichenberg, more playing time. There's no accountability. They know they take themselves out of football games. They're tired. They take themselves out. Are you kidding me? It doesn't. You look back. Shula never would have allowed it. Wonston would never allow it. No one. None of these coaches. None of the coaches. Even Cameron wouldn't allow this. It's worse than a social worker. It's like that person you hire to babysit your children who brings their cell phone, lets them run around, and they're on their cell phone. And when they want something, he'll just give it to them. He is by far the worst leader of men I've ever seen. Why do people want to play for Mike McDaniel? Because they can make a lot of money and do whatever they want, and there's no accountability for it. There's no one being called out. There's no one being questioned. There's no realness to it. It's absolutely pathetic. And it's not even to the point now where I criticize his play calling. Now, the fact that he's joking around, I sort of 10 points. We've scored 70 points. The New England Patriots have scored 29 more points than you, Mike McDaniel. The New England Patriots and Jacoby Brissett have scored 29 more points than you.
Let me say very quick. I'm not interrupting you in a bad way. Week 3, Dolphins scored 70 points. Week 1 through 7 this season, you know how many points?
Or 70 points.
70 points.
And first off, my mom.
Well, Greg, sorry. Evan's almost done, I think. Maybe.
Yeah. All I'm going to truly say about this is I had a rough day, and I'm happy. The best gift I was given today is I didn't have to watch the second half. Because to watch that, I feel bad for the people who travel, like Greg, like Mike, like all the people that went down there. Every single one of them. Thank God for Alan Poupart. He didn't have to travel down there. Poor Omar and all the other ones. Omar Kelly, Chris Perkins, David Furonis, all these guys. Joe Shaq. They had to waste their. I feel bad for all these newspapers who have to spend their stupid. What are they going to watch? This is not a football team. Think about this. MLS. Think about the foundation of this team. The Miami Dolphins are the worst sports franchise right now in Florida. Why? Because the Miami Marlins are choosing to be bad. But when they choose to be good again, they're going to win. The Miami Heat are consistent every single season. They have a head coach, and you have Pat Riley. They're naming a court after the guy. They named the stadium after Pat Riley, okay? Look at what they've done. Look at the Florida Panthers and how stout they are. Inter Miami brought in Lionel Messi, and they're going to win a championship this year. Miami Dolphins are bringing in all these people, all these weapons. Are you telling me, no matter who they are, Sam Darnold, thank God Joe Flacco didn't play. It would have been 27-13, Bobby. Look at all the backups. Did you see the play today, Andy Reid? I don't know if any of you guys had to see the highlight. There was a play out there today at one point behind the line of center was Carson Wentz, Patrick Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, and Travis Kelce. They had two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. What happened to the creativity of Mike McDaniel? What happened to it? You're telling me are you actually telling me that one player, Uno, and that's the excuse that they're going to use, that one player, an injury-prone quarterback, they're playing as bad of an offense with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, Raheem Mostert. They're playing worse if or equal to teams that were winning with Brian Flores when he had Jesse Davis at left tackle. He had Myles Gaskin and Devontae Parker and Mac Hollins. Are you apt? There was more offense with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Mike Gesicki and Mac Hollins than there is with a team with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It is on Mike McDaniel. It is on Chris Greer. It's on Jalen Waddle. It's on Tyreek Hill. It's on Jalen Ramsey. It's on Teron Armstead. It's on Zach. It's all of them. Because you want to know what? They're captains, and they have failed this team. They have failed this fan base. But Mike, they're not going to get fired because you want to know what? They're all protected, and there's who knows. I guarantee you, we don't even know this. If McDaniel was extended, Greer was extended. But shame on Stephen Ross. He doesn't deserve to be an owner of this football team if he's willing to allow this nonsense, this crap, this stupidity. You're treating your fans like garbage. You're putting out one of the worst products I've ever seen in my life. This is not football. This is 1970s. This is Bob Greasy Bob Greasy throwing 7 passes in the goddamn Super Bowl. What is this nonsense that we're watching? You're supposed to be this offensive genius. You suck. You're pathetic. You're a waste of my freaking time. Greg, your floor is yours.
I'm going to say this very quick, and I'll let Greg, you follow up right after this and just get into, first off, the vibe in the stadium, the game before, and then get into your points. But since week 3, the Dolphins offense has ranked 18th in rush success rate, 26th in yards per carry, 28th in pass EPA, 29th in yards per points, 29th in third down conversion, 30th in success rate, 31st in red zone scoring, 31st in pass success rate, last in EPA play, last in points per game, last in rush EPA, first in penalties per game. Greg, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I'm not sure what's going to be the name of the stadium, but I'm going to say we're going to go to Mike McDaniel Field at Greer Stadium, and the uprights are going to be named after Crossman. All right, that's just the way it's going to go. I had a great weekend. Okay, there are 2 weekends a year where I can't go to a Dolphin game in Miami. Okay, one weekend is for a corporate meeting that we have in the fall, right? And I missed. I had to miss the Tennessee Titan game for that. The other one is my grandkid's birthday. Okay, I have 2 grandkids. Their birthday party was this weekend. It was phenomenal. I had a great time, and it happened to coincide with coming to Indianapolis to watch the Dolphins game. Perfect, right? And then I had to watch that crap. I really don't understand how after 2 weeks that's your game plan. That's the part that I don't get. The vibe in the stadium, there were a lot of Dolphin fans there. There's a lot of Dolphin fans in the hotel that I'm staying at. But they just this idea, and I saw Mike McDaniel's press conference. That he has to figure out a way to get Waddle and Hill the ball. Well, no kidding. You say that every week. What are you doing? All right, it's not that hard. And then you just kept piling mistakes upon mistakes upon mistakes. When you're playing a bad team, and you're a bad team, but when you have a backup quarterback in, you can't keep making mistakes after mistake after mistake and expecting something good to happen. And that's all you see. Special teams mistakes. How do you line up offsides on a special teams? All right. The punting was horrible today. There were, just 2 horrible punts. Sanders, again, missing a field goal. You can't do that and consistently win when you can't afford to make mistakes. And and I've been thinking about this game and putting it into a larger context. Okay, you know why the Dolphins beat bad teams and don't beat good teams, even with Tua? It's because they can overcome their mistakes. They make the same amount of mistakes whether they play a bad team or a good team. And now, but when you play a good team, those mistakes come back to kill you. And now with your backup quarterback, you keep making these same mistakes over and over again, and you wonder why you score 10 points. Yeah, I am one of the last ones to pick on coaches and play calling and things like that. I know it's a hard job. All right. And Evan's been doing this for a couple of years now with Mike McDaniel. But today, I am off that bandwagon. I cannot. There's after 2 weeks, and this is the best you got. We ran the ball 40 times again. Great. All right. We rushed the ball for almost 190 yards again. Great. We scored 10 points. Your 2 best players you can't get the ball to. Okay. And then what I think is your best running back going right now, Jalen Wright, doesn't even get on the field until the 3rd quarter. And when he does, he runs the ball well. Okay. And then, because of Ingold's fumble, basically you come off the field. The next possession, you put Achane back in again. Achane had a decent game, but he wasn't tearing anything up. And every time you start to get a little momentum with this team, basically they do something stupid to basically take all that momentum away. I, I, I just, and this was after the bye. The bye is when you're supposed to clean
That's
things
right.
up, okay? And what didn't get cleaned up? It was almost worse today in a way. They had one possession where they committed like penalties on 3 out of 4 plays. Okay. And then you got Mike McDaniel on a 3rd and 18 in the first half with a backup quarterback, and you're not throwing the ball downfield, calling a timeout because the play clock was going to end. You know, that play clock, that timeout could have maybe got you some extra points at the end of the half. Instead of having to settle for the field goal, maybe that extra timeout in your back pocket lets you be able to go for a touchdown. But no, you use that there. Okay. You drive the ball down on your touchdown drive. Okay. And then you want to put in some kind of fancy personnel package. Everything gets screwed up, and you got to call a timeout on the 2-yard line in the first half. Maybe that timeout could have helped you. How do you keep making these dumb mistakes? You can't get your personnel on the field on time. You can't call the play on time, and you keep using timeouts. I don't understand how this keeps happening on a professional football field. I really can't.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And you just to emphasize your point, I want you to follow up with the end of the game on that final run when Miami got the ball back. I mean, they wasted that timeout. So, I mean, it's obvious what you need to do there, right, Greg? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science. You don't need to be, you never had, I played high school ball. You've coached, it doesn't take rocket science to figure out, hey, we need to get out of bounds. Make sure you're drawing up plays to get out of bounds, stop that clock, or run up and throw it down.
Correct.
What the hell was happening there in that final drive? They let the clock run. What the hell?
Correct. And they couldn't make a decision to spike the ball to stop the clock when you have no timeouts left? What are you doing? All right. And then another part of that is they're running these dink and dunks over the middle of the field, just basically chewing up yards. Okay, fine. But then it takes them an extra 5 to 8 seconds to line up because Jalen Waddle's got to go from the right on one play to the next play on the left, with no timeouts left. You can't keep doing stuff like that. All right. You're just chewing up the clock. And at some point, with no timeouts left, you either got to throw the ball out of bounds to stop the clock or try to attempt to throw the ball on the sidelines. If it's an incomplete, it's incomplete. Okay? The clock is your enemy here. That 2-minute drive at the end of the game was maddening.
Horrible.
For how bad it was.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, I was livid at just I could understand if they would have tried to drive downfield, they spike in and they don't win at the end. It's like, okay, you know what? But it was like that was loser ball. They were doing these little checkdowns. They should have done that earlier. Keep it short and sweet, to move it downfield. But not at the end of the game. That's when you tell the guys, all right, go out, go bomb out. They weren't doing that until the final. It was ridiculous.
I didn't hear Evan's full rant because I've been trying to connect and things like
You're
that.
so lucky. No, I'm just kidding.
but the clock management, and I've talked about how other teams are fine with the Dolphins running the ball. Okay, they're fine with the running ball. That 2-minute drill, they were fine with you completing those passes. They weren't doing anything to stop you. Us three could have completed those passes, the checkdowns of 5 yards over the middle of the field. Okay? And even then, that's the first time Tyreek Hill catches a football. All right? What are we doing? It's amazing to me.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just, and then they're standing around looking at the sideline. The clock's ticking away. And they waste 8 to 10 seconds to figure out to spike the ball. I mean, look, I would be pissed if my high school quarterback executed like that. This is the NFL.
Yep.
I mean,
100%.
what the hell? All right. It was. We had this old guy in front of me, a Colts fan, in the stands, and I was way up in the corner of the building and stuff like that. He was laughing at us at how inept that 2-minute drive was, and I'm just like, oh my god, it just, yeah. The bad thing is as pissed as I was at the field watching that stuff, I came back to the room and rewatched the game. You know, it was worse than I thought.
Yeah,
it
was a bad watch. You see, at least I'm sure live at the stadium, you're kind of enjoying the vibe, whatever. You're at the stadium,
vibe was great.
But then you see it. But when you get back and you're watching the game,
right.
it was like I couldn't be more furious with the situation. I do want to bring up this point, and Greg, I'll let you follow up with what I'll say. Scotty writes, I felt Huntley was more uncomfortable this week than the last game. Like he went backwards. To me, and I'm like you. It's like, give your coach a chance. I'm not. But to give Costanza kudos, that's an indictment on Mike McDaniel. I've talked about it. You had Skylar Thompson for 3 seasons in your system under your tutelage. And when he came in, he looked like he regressed so bad that he doesn't belong in the league anymore. Huntley looked better last week or 2 weeks ago. Looked like he was getting to a point. Some points he did look like he was more, but it looked like at some points today he had regressed. It's like anytime these guys, other than Tua, spends more time under McDaniel, they fall backwards. To Greg, to you, what do you say of something like that?
So to me, what it looked like is that instead of working basically from a basic perspective and moving it up slightly, all right, I gave McDaniel credit in the New England game for basically simplifying everything. Quit running motions, quit doing things like that, and basically make things really simple for Huntley. It looked like McDaniel over the last 2 weeks has said, okay, I want to try to make it more complicated again. They were running motions. They were doing different things. They were doing all of these weird substitution patterns, okay, that I don't know if you could pick up on a game telecast, but in a game, they were substituting in basically tight ends and wide receivers every single play. So the personnel groups weren't staying consistent. And it just looked like they gave Huntley too much to think about. And it was complicating him, and he was thinking instead of just playing. Whereas against New England, no motions, no worry about. You basically lined up in an I formation. You had a fullback there, and you just ran the ball. I just believe the last 2 weeks that just made things more complicated for him. And I don't know why you wouldn't keep the basic stuff that was working in New England. New England, they should have scored 24 points or, in the 20s if their special teams didn't suck, right? Offensively, they looked like a somewhat competent team. Today, there was none of that again. And shuffling in all 3 of the running backs just didn't make any sense. Not giving Wright any touches in the first half didn't make any sense. Not after New England. This idea to focus on getting Achane involved and getting him the ball and all those touches, I just think's a loser because he's not that type of running back. But the bigger thing for me was just the inability to even look at Waddle and Hill in the passing game.
Yeah.
And then having to hear McDaniel talk about, I got to do a better job of trying to get them the ball. Well, no kidding. All right, thanks, Mr. Obvious.
Yeah, and you're right. You look at what Jalen Wright did last week, and the guys are talking, Brett and Scotty there, about Jonnu Smith, who again, I mean, that was a good thing to see. It was Jonnu getting involved and making plays, but they turned away from him later in the game as well too. He became an afterthought, which was and they started trying to force the ball to Julian Hill, who I don't know how that dude even has a roster spot at this point. Alex Brown in the house. Great to see you, Alex. Hope you're doing well, brother. I don't even know how Houston did today, but Alex, former host of No Holds Barred, go get Carson Beck or Sadair Sanders in the draft. But Costanza has been angrily typing away. I had to mute his mic a little bit just so we didn't hear he'll have to go back to Office Depot and buy a new keyboard after the show. But he's been quiet here, so I want to get your perspective on what Greg was saying. And
Greg, you know what this number is?
That's how many penalties are pre-snap, right?
Is that on the players or on the coaching? Because how nonsensical is that? 67% of your penalties happen before you goddamn snap the goddamn football.
I know. It has to. That's coaching, all right. That's trying to do too much and confusing your players and not knowing where to line up. You know, I was telling Bobby the 2-minute drill. You know, having your wide receivers go from the right to the left in the 2-minute drill, wasting all that time, it's just not. They don't know where to go. And Mike McDaniel calling plays to put them in that position is just nonsensical. But it is coaching. It is coaching. And if your players cannot line up properly, you get new players in there. But no, Julian Hill, he's on the field the whole damn time. All right? He just commits penalty after penalty. All right? It's so frustrating watching this team mess up the basics.
Fire John Embry. That's for sure.
You know, just mess up the basics of football. They can't line up. They can't call a play, and they don't manage the clock. I mean, other than that, they're fine.
Yeah. So what do you want me to follow up on, Bobby? By the way, can I ask you a question? What was Tim Boyle thinking? Did he think that throwing it out of bounds on the last play to Malik Washington was the way to try and score a touchdown? Even if you threw an interception into the end zone, why not?
It was fourth down.
I don't think he knew it was fourth down.
I don't think he did either.
Wait, was Mike McDaniel in his ear? Was Mike McDaniel in his ear?
Maybe
Mike McDaniel thought it was third down after the snap because it's the same head coach who didn't realize it was fourth down in a goddamn playoff game. Now, something that no one has brought up. Since we've been losing all these football games, do you know who's been in the ear of Mike McDaniel and the quarterback outside of Mike McDaniel? Do you know what the player's name is?
You've brought it up every week.
I said except me.
You brought it up. You brought it up every week.
I said except me. Except Captain Obvious.
The one who's going like this when they went downfield. The one who's
His name is Tua Taga wasting my time Ola. Because this guy has done nothing.
Well, he's
the
been
last
injured.
couple of weeks to help guide his quarterbacks, to help guide the team. But above everything, guys, it doesn't matter how bad the special teams has been. It doesn't matter how bad the pre-snap penalties have been. It doesn't matter how bad the offensive line has been. It doesn't matter how bad the wide receivers are. It doesn't matter anything. The fact that this moron, this idiot, this dumbass actually has the gall to go out and say this past week, the season is similar to last year. Why? Last year you had Tua all season. This year you don't have Tua. You are telling me that you had all off season, OTAs, training camp, all this nonsense. You had Mike White there the entire time. You're telling me Mike White would be worse than this? If Mike White was going to be worse than this, and you had Skylar Thompson and you couldn't assess him, and now you waited to get Tyler Huntley, who actually had 100. Tyler Huntley wasn't a problem today. Tyler Huntley actually played decently had he not got injured. The problem is he doesn't have enough to work with, and he still hasn't had enough time to understand this complicated offense. The fact that you have built it off. Remember, I said this to you 2 years ago, Bobby, when they had Teddy Bridgewater, and when Teddy Bridgewater went in, McDaniel didn't adjust, and everyone said, "Well, the offense is built for Tua." Then Skyler would go in. Well, the offense is built for Tua, and now, what's even more an indictment? Might need a veteran head coach. I always said we need a veteran head coach. My point is that you basically have said you built something where only one person can drive the car. That's basically like telling a car manufacturer that only one person knows how to start the car. Only the engineer knows how to drive the car, or the person who's test driving it. You're telling me no one else can go in it, or an F1 that you designed the car for Max Verstappen and no one else can do it? Are you kidding me? It is the biggest indictment on Mike McDaniel is the fact that I can't believe I actually called him Mike McDaniel, not Mike McIdiot, Mike McMoron, Mike McDumbass. that he has not signed a backup quarterback. How many backup quarterbacks are winning every single week? People are also up. I feel bad for I don't feel bad for Deshaun Watson because he's an asshole that he injured himself. So I don't actually, because of what he's done to all the women, I don't feel bad for the fact that he's torn his Achilles. But it's actually the worst news for the Cleveland Browns. Had they had Deshaun Watson, they could really tank. Now you have Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Jameis Winston who are going to try to win football games so they can earn a job next season. They're actually going to start probably winning football games without Deshaun Watson. And the fact that he's been saying, we don't know when Tua's coming back. What's he trying to do? Trying to tell people like he's trying to play some sort of covert game that he doesn't want Tua to come back? Are you? And Tua doesn't have to wear the guardian cap. It's a collective bargaining agreement thing. Are you kidding me? Yes, you can force him to wear it. You don't have to play him. All I have to tell you about this team is we're going to continue to have these. If we didn't have this stuff, if we didn't have the Alan Poupart, who I love, who came on our show, who I just DM'd, I love my Expos hat. I'll tell you why I'm wearing this today. And it doesn't matter. It's unbelievable. The fact that we didn't have this community, we'd all be, I swear to God, we'd all blow up. We wouldn't have a place to go. You understand? Imagine you had to keep it inside of you, serenity now. You didn't have the ability. Imagine I didn't have that, Bobby. Could you just imagine me if I didn't have this outlet to come here, to do this?
Hey, I thought about this yesterday. Said it this yesterday, and obviously, we all know, what happened, and who I lost with, and Ralph, and that's who I had. Before this channel, before doing this, was Ralph and talking the game and talking to him and calling him, oh, do you believe the damn Dolphins? Oh, blah, blah. We'd argue about Greer because he was like, I don't think it's Greer, man. It's this. And we would go back and forth. And then he was the one who said, hey, man, you need to start doing these shows because, you do great. Of course, and then I started doing the shows and I said, man, I'm going to do a network. And he's been supportive. Of course, now he's gone. But it was crazy. I was thinking about it yesterday because after the game, they talked every time. Because he encouraged me to do this, to start doing this, and eventually do this network. And now he's gone. He gave me all of you guys because because if this wasn't the case, as you were saying, Fitzstanza, I'd be right now. I wouldn't know who to call. I'd be sitting there probably in the dumps. Going, God dang it, Ralph. I screw the Dolphins for not doing that when for his life, but because he encouraged me to do that, I was able to meet you, Evan, and gain a friend and Greg and Brett Lagasse. Brett, Ralph encouraged me to start doing shows, and then Ralph followed up after I talked to Ralph about it. Brett was the one who said, Bobby, man, you need to start a network, man. You could do this. And so Hank and all them because of that. So you're so right, Evan, in regards of, thank God we have this. Because if we didn't, I don't know how we'd get over, because it's completely maddening to see the regression of this football team. And I understand, it's only 2-4, this, I can see, Tua is going to come back. But guys, here's the issue. The issues are so much bigger than one player. Tua's not going to come back. And, it will take a long now Bobby has this angry chat with Evan, Greg, and me. Yeah. And at times at the end, because he'd tell Bobby, you are right. And then he'd say, Bobby, you need to have And because I would tell him, I'll tell him all day. He'd go, no, bro, this is going to be all great. And everything. He goes, you're right, bro. No, screw these guys. But anyway.
Can I just say one thing, Bobby?
Yeah.
And Matt, can you imagine? I'm being actually serious. If I would have gone if I had the wherewithal and I had the ability to still be able to go there to the game next week, unfortunately, I have stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm thankful that I don't have to go to the game because if I would have spent my money on this nonsense, I would have felt really bad. But if I were to go to the game, I would actually spend my money to sit. I'd pay money to figure out a way to either get on the sideline, sit behind there, and I would literally have the biggest sign with every Mick you could possibly think of. Because honestly, you know what it's sad? Is that he's allowing people to steal people like Greg, your, and my money. And what I mean by that is that part of what generates revenue for the Miami Dolphins is us purchasing the merchandise. It's us going to the games. It's us supporting this football team. And when you have guys who are making $28 and $30 million a year, sitting on the sideline, laughing, slapping hands, when they caught a total of 2 receptions for about 25 yards. Unbelievable. Where is the accountability there? Where is the understanding of what's going on? It's not fair. It's not fair to the people who put their effort into watching this football team. Because you want to know why? Negate the Jets. Okay, for a second. I'm going to just bring up the stinking smelly Jets for a second, right? At least this week, they're going all in. They're trying different things. They didn't think their head coach was getting along with the head coach, so they got rid of him. They didn't think they have the right guy. Yes, are they going in all in Roger? But at least they're trying, and at least there's an effort. And now in project, our game was if you couldn't catch unless you had the NFL ticket, you couldn't catch this game unless you were living in Indiana or parts of Miami. It wasn't even showing in the entire part of Florida. The Dolphins used to be primetime now. You don't think how much they regret the fact that we have all these primetime games coming up? And you know what the saddest part is? And we haven't even talked about it, even though I mentioned it a little bit in my rant. We should be 0-6. If it wasn't for a foot like this, that wasn't a rule of the end zone, and the fact that Javon Holland didn't pop out a ball, Bobby, we should be the worst team in football. And I'm saying we are the worst team in football. Because with a head coach like this, we are the worst team in football. Because even as bad as Sirianni is as a person, he went into Pittsburgh, he went into MetLife today with his team and dominated the Giants in a divisional game. What did we do? We keep on losing to bad teams. Why? It can't just be about the players, and you can't fire 53 players. Because you want to know what? I bet you that if Andy Reid walked into that with that exact team, there are 25 head coaches who could walk into that room tomorrow and fix the problems that exist with Mike McDaniel. Because there are 25 head coaches who would not put up with the nonsense. And I'm about to give you a comparable. There's a guy who was on that football field today, and his name is Shane Steichen. As bad as Anthony Richardson was, he found a way to win that football game. Last week, no Anthony Richardson, I'll play Joe Flacco, a completely different quarterback. I'm going to win a football game. They're over 500, 4-3. As mediocre as people say they are, they're over 500. We're 2-4. We should be 0-6. He should be fired. And I don't care what he does. If Tua turns this around, he should still be fired. Because it doesn't matter. Because you're telling me one player on a 53-man roster takes over a team and dominates a team? I don't think, by the way, I'm convinced it doesn't matter if it was Andy Dalton. I personally believe he can't develop quarterbacks. Tua was already developed in my mind. Did he give him the confidence? Sure. But he's mid. And you know what angered me most, Greg, today? What angered me most, after all their hard work last week, Mostert and Jalen Wright, you don't even give them the opening snap. You give a guy who's coming off a concussion with a guardian cap the first couple snaps of the running, and you run him up the goddamn freaking middle. How dumb can you be? A guy getting over a concussion, and you throw him up the middle wearing a guardian cap when your 2 star players from last week are sitting on the goddamn bench, and one of them, who was your best running back, got 5 carries and didn't touch it till the second half. This guy is an absolute embarrassment. Chris Greer is an embarrassment. We already know this. Tom Garfunkel is an embarrassment because he supports this. Stephen Ross, I'm now convinced, Stephen Ross, I love you, my fellow tribesman, but you care nothing about Dolphins winning. Everyone thought it was about winning for you. If you cared about winning, then why aren't you doing something about it anymore? You opened up your checkbook for Tyreek Hill. You opened up your checkbook for this. Who cares if you lose money on Mike McDaniel? You'd be better off trying anybody else. You'd be better off pull a Jeff Saturday and bring in Zach Thomas for the rest of the year. I don't care who, but this is ridiculous. There's no accountability. There's nothing. There's nothing. You can't do anything wrong. I will piss off my boss tomorrow by making a typo in an email and get reprimanded for that faster than these guys stealing money for going out there and giving us the shit show that they have given us this season. They are the worst football team in this league. People seem to be forgetting this, Bobby. Forget the record. They have scored 70 points. It's worse than the NFL. They have held the lead for the least amount of time. Worse than the NFL. It's the most penalties. And in theory, if it wasn't for a toe, a heel, and a last-second field goal, they'd be 0-6. I never trashed Tua once. Whoever trashed Tua? Would you like to go play the tape? It's my first. Where did I trash Tua? I said that Mike McDaniel and him are a problem together. Not that Tua is a bad quarterback. Tua is a capable game-managing quarterback who can do well in a lot of systems. I always said his Achilles heel was Mike McDaniel. He was the right coach, Mike McDaniel, when Tua was coming up as a rookie, not in year 4 or year 3.
Yeah, I will say in regards to, and not since day one, Evan was a supporter, in supporting Tua and on that thing. I wouldn't say he's even trashed him since day one, but yeah, that is true. McDaniel is 22-18 as head coach for Miami. Tua is good.
Who cares?
Tua is good, not elite. Tua was never the right quarterback. That's from Brett Lagasse. Anywho,
So Tua's a winning. Hey, Tua's a winning quarterback. Are you telling me he's an elite quarterback because he's had a winning record? It's the first thing that people have thrown back at us is the fact that Tua's a winning quarterback. But who cares? Who cares if you win? Kirk Cousins is a winning quarterback. Has he proven anything yet? Matthew Stafford he was a winning quarterback a little bit in Detroit. Was he proving anything yet?
We have over 100 people watching right now from Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching right now. You're watching the FTSN Miami Dolphins post-game show with Fitzstanza, myself, and Greg. I am going to get ready to pop off. Fitzstanza will take the lead from here because I know he has so much more to say. I was going to say if Evan wanted me to drop the link to see if people wanted to pop in and give their 2 cents on the game. But
I'm dropping it right now.
There you go. Fitzstanza will continue. Greg, it was so awesome seeing you, my friend. Evan, much love to you, brother. Thank you so much.
Peace out.
Guys, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Most importantly, Fids up. I'll see you all next time.
So, Greg,
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Like, you see this? You left that game today. I think people have been saying this week that Dolphins fans travel. And I know 305 Sports Babe threw a party there. The Go was there. There was a lot going on in Miami for Indy. What was the feeling in the stadium among Dolphin fans? Were you sitting around any of them? What was going on there?
It was amazement in a way, a disbelief. There's a few around us and stuff, and it didn't make sense. When you have common fans up in the stands trying to figure out what the heck you're trying to do, okay, it's never a good look, right? Your point about HN to getting the start and getting the opening carries, I think, to me, it just sent the wrong message. You look at HN's stats, he did okay, but he didn't really do anything major. All right. If Mostert doesn't fumble the football, Mostert had a better game, and Wright would have had a better game. I don't understand why Achane has been the focus of this offense through the first, 5 of the 6 games this year. It doesn't make sense. I've been calling him a mid running back the entire time, right? Yeah. And every time Mostert's in there or Wright's in there, the offense is better. I don't think that's a mistake anymore. Okay, if it was for one game, okay, maybe as a just that one game, but it's not. It's every time they're in the game, they do better things. All right, the defense today against one of the worst quarterback games I've seen in a long time in the NFL, right? For supposedly a starting quarterback. all right, kept making mistakes too. All right? The touchdown that Indianapolis scored, I have no idea what Long was doing again. None. All right, the guy basically walks in untouched from like 8 yards out, and a lot. Well, Brooks was getting blocked by Nelson, but Long just basically picked a spot to run through when there was nobody there. And I just, after the bye, nothing got fixed. You know,
Nothing.
not, there wasn't anything that I could identify from watching the game. And I watched it twice. I watched it live while I was in the stadium, and I watched it again when I got back to the hotel. Nothing seemed to have gotten fixed. And if that's not an indictment on a coaching staff, I don't know what is. You know, you come into the game on defense. All right, I'm going to pick on Weaver a little bit today too. All right,
I picked on
you
him
come,
before.
you come into the game on defense without your pass rushers. And you know who the best pass rusher you had today was? Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey was making plays behind the line of scrimmage on offense. All right. I give him credit for doing that, but you can't generate any other pressure with anybody else. Chop Robinson was basically invisible again today. And
He was there. He was visible. He was just useless. He turned a 3.5-yard loss into an 11-yard gain.
Yes, except for that play. All right. And you know, dude, he's going to learn at some point that if you expose your ribs to a running back on a chip, you know, you're going to break ribs. All right. So, dude, you better wise up there. All right. Calais Campbell played well today. Sealer played well again today.
But they always play well.
Okay. And they didn't, as bad as that quarterback was today that they faced, they still allowed him to make throws within 28 seconds to get a field goal.
How did that happen? How does that continue to happen to this moronic head coach? How does that soft zone?
I don't know. I as soon as that first play, all right, the first play was a drop, okay, by Watson or not number 14, Pierce, right? You know, was a drop, but as soon as they lined up to take that play, I saw the defense and I'm like, they're going to get a chunk yardage gain here, all right, and then with a couple of timeouts left, you know, they might be able to get in the field goal range.
And there was over then.
Yeah, well, but he dropped it, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, we just caught a break. Then they allowed even a bigger play over the middle. I was just, I was texting Brett, you know, in the, you know, part of the second half, and he asked something like, how are we going to fix this? And I'm like, you can't fix stupid. All right. And there's just too much stupid on this team right now.
Yeah.
All right. All of the pre-snap penalties, all of this, it just doesn't make sense. Why do you call a timeout on 3rd and 18 to not go to 3rd and 23? So you have a play at 3rd and 18 you can call, but at 3rd and 23 you can't?
Yeah.
Right?
Their time management is
need that
unbelievable.
timeout. Okay, and then the timeout that they used, because the Indianapolis Colts baited them into it, all right, when they brought the quarterback back on after they were going to attempt for the field goal, the referee was standing over the ball, not allowing it to be snapped with 7 seconds left. They weren't going to snap the ball, and Mike McDaniel has to run down the sideline to call a timeout in a game where you're going to need the timeout.
He has no feel.
He has no idea what
he's not a game big head coach. He has no idea. He has no feel for a football game. He's that person. Like, you know what it is? It's sort of like, I'll give you the best example, and this is fun. Have you ever seen the movie The Rock?
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie. Okay. Stanley Goodspeed. He is a genius locked in a lab. Amazing. Do you think without Sean Connery going without Mason going into the Rock, he would have survived? Of course not. You're basically saying Stanley Goodspeed lead us into the Rock and save those hostages. That is what Chris Greer's basically said. We're going to give you a guy who has never done this before the ability to lead a high-powered offense. And in what planet do they think that Tua is going to come back? How is it? You telling me that Tua is going to draw some fairy dust, and all of a sudden we're going to have 20 receptions from our two wide receivers? Are you telling me what does that mean? That Mike McDaniel has been playing possum because he doesn't want to hurt Tua's feelings the last 4 weeks? They sucked before Tua got injured. Tua's last game was 3 interceptions before he got injured, and then he got himself injured.
Well, and that's a bigger part of this. You saw this happening last year, at the end of last year. Okay? You had the entire off season to figure this out. And this is what we came up with.
What was up with the Alec Ingold play on first goddamn down? What the heck was that play call? What was that?
I don't. They keep trying to trick the other team.
He's outsmarting himself.
And he's outsmarting himself. You know, again, you had Wright, you know, in this series, you know, he had like 3 runs. He gained like 40 yards on 3 runs. All right. Then Ingold fumbles. Okay. Turn the ball over. The next possession, you bring Achane in. And what do you try? And you bring Achane in and give him basically the handoff that you should have been given to Wright. And he stops in the hole and he loses 2 yards. Now you're 2nd and 12 with your backup 4th string quarterback, and you're wondering why you can't move the football. It was maddening. I would see the substitution patterns coming in and out of the game, and I'm going, what are you trying to do? All right. And then the defense is like, okay, you know, they don't have their top 3 wide receivers on the field. I think they're going to run the ball. All right. And the run goes nowhere. Wow. Hey, surprise, surprise. You know, it just, again, after a bye week, this is the best you could come up with.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
A couple weeks ago, Jason Sanders doinks it. You have Tim Boyle, who you know can't take you down the field. This is your opportunity to go win the football game. You don't need 3 to tie the game. You need 6. You need 7 to close the book because they weren't coming back down the field to score a touchdown on your defense. The way the defense was playing average, just with Anthony Richardson, the way he was playing. On 4th and 1, all of a sudden you become conservative, and you saw that the last couple of weeks so far this season, he's missed more 50-plus yard field goal than he's made, and you give Jason Sanders the ability to go kick a tying field goal. Who is this guy? And also explain to me, because you and Brett have talked about it. How are you not able to come up with 10 plays for your top 2 wide receivers? They're going to let you run the ball. Yes, we want you to run the football, but at one point you got to throw the ball to your best players. They're happy for you not to throw it to them, and
Correct.
You're not throwing to them.
Correct. I mean, you think that the Indianapolis Colts weren't happy that they, you know, that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle didn't touch the ball hardly at all today? No, they were loving it. They're like, give the ball to Achane. All right. Achane was like the 4th best running back on the field today.
Yeah.
Okay. And we kept feeding him the ball.
Yeah.
All right. You know, Jonnu Smith had a nice game, but that nice game led to 10 points. All right. You can't expect to win games in the NFL level when your 5th, 6th, and 7th best offensive players are the ones that are touching the ball all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Waddle and Hill had 0 targets in the first half. 0. They weren't even thrown. If they didn't have a catch, but they were thrown at 10 times, I'd be like, okay, quarterback sucks. I understand that. But they didn't even try.
No.
They
And
didn't even try.
And Tyreek Hill was so bored and so dumb and so stupid that when Tyler Huntley finally gave him a ball, he effed up.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready.
He didn't even look. He was just like,
whatever. I didn't expect the ball to come here.
Watching that play live, all right, it happened away from me. And like I said, I was up pretty high today, but it happened away from me, right? And I'm like, oh, the ball must have landed out of bounds, right? No, I watched the game live. It landed in bounds.
Yeah.
It was right there.
Yeah.
And then he pointed to his eyes like he couldn't see it.
Where are we here? No sun.
I was like, what is this? All right. It was stupid.
Yeah, because let's take a little bit of a break from the Dolphins to give us perspective.
Right.
So let's go through what happened in the NFL today. Okay.
All right.
So there was a sleeper game, but actually there was 48 points scored because the Jaguars like playing in London, so they picked up a 32-16 win over the Patriots. As bad as the Patriots are, they're supposed to be bad. Now the Jaguars are with scoring points. They're not going to come back from this, but at least Doug Peterson is beating the teams. We almost lost to the Patriots. They put up 32 on the Patriots. That was an expected win. And then this was actually a shocker for me, even though the fact that the Seahawks, who have been struggling, actually came across country and took care of the Falcons 34-14. That was an embarrassment for the Falcons today.
That's a Kirk Cousins game.
Yeah.
I
thought he gained some traction last couple of weeks.
Well, no, and that's what he does. That's why he's Kirk Cousins.
Exactly.
Is he'll play 2 or 3 really good games in a row, and then he'll throw a game up like today, and you're just go, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
All right.
And a score very similar to what we experienced in week 2. At home, the Bills took care of the Mason Rudolph team that we could not take care of, and basically took care of the Titans very easily, 34-10. Like, the fact that people even thought, all of us who drank that fairy dust, that we were close to the Bills, even with all their changes, we're in trouble.
Well, and Amari Cooper caught a touchdown today.
Yeah.
He's just getting put into the fold. You know, hey,
wait, new guy gets adjusted into the offense pretty quickly.
Well, no, and you know, he was only there a week when they could figure out how to get him a ball. You know, Tyreek Hill's been here 3 years. Jalen Waddle's been here 4, but you can't figure out how to get them the ball.
At this point, Tyreek Hill might have the greatest drop in history. He might go from the number 1 ranked player in NFL by the NFL players to outside the 100 at the end of this season. That's how bad. Do you understand how bad Mike McDaniels made his offensive players look this year? It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. The Bengals picked up a victory in Cleveland. Cleveland may have gotten a reprieve, but they may actually start winning football games. The fact that Deshaun Watson is probably done for the year. But a team that started off very poor, and Joe Burrow didn't even have a great game today. And all of a sudden, he is now have his team back 3-4. Watch the Bengals make the playoffs.
The Bengals are like this almost every year. They start out relatively slow, but at the end of the year, they're tough out.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin, for joining. You can always catch Justin on our OUS shows. He's great on those shows with Josh Kimmel. In terms of the Packers, we predicted, as me and Bobby, the Texans went into Lambeau. The Texans are a stout organization. And what do you know? Matt LaFleur, a guy off the tree, found a way to beat the Houston Texans 24-22. Jordan Love, 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns again.
And they dominated the score sheet, even though. Then, a prediction I made today, the NFC battle between the 2 best teams in the Vikings and the Lions. And guess what? Do you know why the Lions won? Because a Josh Boyer, Brian Flores special of 0 blitz got roasted by the Detroit Lions, who picked up the victory 31-29. Jared Goff, 22-25. How accurate has this guy been? 282 touchdowns. Jamar Gibbs, 15 carries, 116. Amara St. Brown, 8 receptions, 112. That's what a spread out offense is. Mm-hmm. We can't even do that. We can't even spread the ball out. Unbelievable. And you know what the funny part is? no one would even put Jared Goff as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, right?
No.
What's up, Papa Hog? The Eagles, Saquon Barkley went in today. Jalen Hurts didn't even have to do anything. He only threw 114 yards and 14 passes.
Yeah.
But Saquon Barkley dominated this game, went back into his former home stadium, and they beat the Giants 28-3. The Eagles now are back 4-2. The Rams 2-4 went in, and we thought, you're going to that Monday Night Football game. At this point, these Rams who are 2-4, Matthew Stafford, I have more faith in the Rams than I do in the Dolphins. Beat the Raiders 20-15.
So that just to let everybody know, that Rams game, I have a very good vendor treating me to that game. So
it's a beautiful stadium.
It's a beautiful stadium. I love that place.
Yeah. How about this? The game wasn't even a game. The Washington Commanders won 40-7, and Jaden Daniels didn't even play the second half. He was in his street clothes. Marcus Mariota came in the second half and threw for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns. Talk about a new head coach. Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, they're utilizing their players. Eckler, Robinson, McLaurin. And what do we have? A team that's 5-2.
They're well coached, and they don't make mistakes. You know what? They're not quite there talent-wise yet, but they don't beat themselves. You know,
40-7.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's an old coach's thing. You know, football games are lost more than they're won. They don't beat themselves. They don't lose games. They get beat. Yeah, and it's that's because they're well coached.
Yeah. Then you had the Chiefs who went into Santa Clara, and the 49ers still can't beat their daddy. The Bills may be our daddy, but they can't beat them. And they lost 28-18. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. And do you know that he had 212 yards? That means that Patrick Mahomes didn't even have to do that much, and they picked up the victory. The Chiefs always find ways to win. They don't win big games. They are 6-0. They're dominating. It is unbelievable what this franchise is. Talk about, remember the whole thing, we've talked about it. The Dolphins have the best cafeteria, the best facilities, the best this. You know who was ranked worse? The Kansas City Chiefs. But they'll take their 6-0.
They'll take their 6-0. And Mahomes hasn't been sharp yet this year, but every game he's made plays to win games. He had a scramble today that was really nice. That basically set him up for that final touchdown. He's not as sharp as he needs to be, but he makes plays still every game.
Oh my God, this is just like, it makes me. Maybe if you really, I want to put it out there. Is it possible that the Kansas City Chiefs were better off without Tyreek Hill? And maybe Tyreek Hill is the problem?
I don't know if he was a problem.
He's not a leader.
But what they've been able to do is basically diversify the offense a little bit. I'll say it that way. You know, not have Tyreek Hill be a focus of the offense, right? Travis Kelce, the tight ends right now are the focus. They sprinkle in a wide receiver here and there. It sort of opened up the field without him being there. And if you trust your quarterback to make plays, he'll figure out how to make plays with somebody like Tyreek Hill. They're a tough out right now. And Mahomes is he's just really damn good, dude. I don't know what else to say that. He makes a play. He makes those 1 or 2 or 3, key plays a game that just make them a tough out.
But they're structurally built. They have a bad left tackle, and he finds a way to do it. Problem is, we don't have that quarterback coming back. Like, I personally think that Kyler Murray might school Tua next week.
Look, I've been saying this over and over again. I'm not sure Miami's defense is as good as what their stats say they are.
They need to sign players. They have no edge rushers.
Yes, they have no edge rushers, but they also, we've played a bunch of bad teams. We're 2-4 playing a bunch of bad teams. All right. We're going to start playing some good offenses. We're going to have to start scoring some points because Arizona's going to score some points.
Oh, they score.
All right. And I don't, I don't think they're great, but you know what? They got guys who can make plays on that offense who you should be scared of.
Yep.
And Kyler Murray's going to make plays. If Marvin Harrison plays, he's going to make plays. James Conner, they're guess what? They're going to run ball at us. All right. And in Indianapolis without Taylor today, ran the ball okay against us.
And if people think that Tua is going to come out, if he plays next week and is going to only after 1 week of practice is going to be back to what he to pre last season form, you're out to lunch. No one comes out that quickly.
Yeah,
this is going to be. They're going to have to rely on the running game just as much as they did, and hope that Tua can find Waddle and Hill deep. But who knows how accurate he's going to be? You don't know how fully available you don't know how perfect he's going to be in game one. Everyone has rust. It's like that game where you take a day off, a couple days vacation, you come back, you need a day to catch up. Tua's going to have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's it.
Yeah.
And you don't think the pressure is going to be on him playing at home? But come on, this is.
I don't. Yeah.
It's going to be a story. It's going to be one of the top stories in the NFL. Tua's back. Is he making the right decision? How is he going to be? How's this? How's that? Honestly, I don't want that. It's going to be the shock because you know what? Every time the spotlight's on the Miami Dolphins, they get stage fright. They never play well when the chips are down. When they're in prime time, the lights are on them. Ever.
Yeah,
ever.
I'm not going to be able to go to the game next week. I'm going in. I'll be in Boston area with my granddaughter. It's that this one kind of came up out of nowhere, but I'm going to go see my 2.5-year-old granddaughter.
And you're skipping the game.
And I'm skipping the game, but
good for you. But you'll be watching the game.
But I'll be watching. But it'll be. I'm real intrigued to see what happens next week.
I'm
and I say that as a glutton for punishment. I think
I want them to lose.
I
want to know why I want them to lose? Because they have one excuse left in their barrel. It's like you're playing a game of Russian roulette with a gun, and you're basically saying, do I have the bullet or do I have an empty barrel? If Tua comes back and they win, oh, it's all better now. And all the pre-snap. Are you telling me that the 67% of your pre-snap penalties are going to go away? Is Jason Sanders going to be able to start kicking field goals? Is Jake Bailey going to actually be able to kick a punt? Is Chop Robinson going to be able to get a sack to save his life? Are we going to actually get to catch an interception that's not done? Emmanuel Ogbah has more interceptions than Jalen Ramsey this season. Are you kidding me? There's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of emotion. It's a game for them. It's a joke. When you have people on other networks who are just who are big Dolphin fans who come up with excuses for this team and what they do and still fins up and this and that. At what point can you continue to drink this goddamn Kool-Aid? The problem is it's not going anywhere. I personally next week, I have a commitment from 12:30 to 1:30 where I'm going to be unavailable from 11:15. So I already told Bobby we're either going to have to do it earlier or we're going to have to figure something out. But I'm looking forward to the fact that I don't have to feel compelled to watch the football game. Because until this team gives me a reason to want to watch the football game, why do I want to watch them play? They have not given me any reason to say this is a team I believe in that is going to give me a joyous 3 hours of my afternoon.
Yeah, see, so I'm a little bit different than that. I enjoy watching football. I
love watching football, but
I enjoyed today. Okay, I love being in that stadium. All right, it wasn't Lucas Oil Stadium, but growing up, that's where I watched the Dolphins was in Indianapolis. All right, I'm from Indiana. All right, I'm a Dolphins fan. This is where I watched Dan Marino play. I never got to see Marino play in the Orange Bowl. Okay, or Joe Robbie. All right, I watched him play in Indianapolis, so this kind of was like a homecoming type thing for me. All right, it was cool. All right, but I want to see improvement. All right, that's the old coach in me still. All right, week in, week out. Every week you get better, okay? And when you don't, that bugs the hell out of me. And
They
this
had 2
season
weeks
has,
to get better.
and,
How'd they going to get better in a week when they couldn't get better in 2?
oh, and that's one of the things that I want to, you know, they're 2-4.
They should be 0-6.
Technically, the season isn't over. They can still do things this year, but it doesn't get any easier. So, are they going to step up or are they going to wilt? Is the head coach going to step up or is he going to wilt? All right. It just, it's, it's, it's football. Quit making it complicated. All right. For the sake of making it complicated. And again, last week or 2 weeks ago against New England, I praised them for simplifying things. Okay. I came on the post game show and I said, they did a good job of simplifying things and look what happened. You don't have to make this complicated. And then today, at, after 2 weeks, of preparing, your offense goes 3 and out on its first possession. And that's ridiculous. You cannot come up with a couple plays to get a first down in 2 weeks. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those taffy bowl games. And Anthony Richardson and the Colts offense wasn't any better. Okay. I didn't realize it until I watched it when I got back into the room. But, 6 out of the Colts' first 10 possessions were 3 and outs. That's how pathetic they were today.
No one wanted to win this football game. And you want to know what? The Dolphins actually, outside of their stupid penalties, should have won. This was a should have won a football game. They should have won, but they gave it away again.
No, this was a very winnable football game. Very winnable. All right. And again, I said it, during my rant, right? That you can't, when you're a team that continues to make mistake after mistake after mistake, you can do that again and beat bad teams. All right. When you're full strength and things like that. But against good teams, that's why you lose, because you keep making those mistakes over and over and over again. Well, right now, they're not a good football team playing another bad football team, and they keep making mistakes over and over and over again. And it's not one aspect. It's not one part of the team that's doing it. Offense keeps making mistakes. Defense keeps making mistakes. Special teams is an abomination right now as far as I'm concerned. All right? And then you have
Except
the coach.
for Ron Neal. He made one good play as a gunner.
Yes.
Today,
Okay.
that was one decent play.
All right. Yes. And then you got a head coach who can't clock manage, who uses stupid timeouts. All right. And then, everybody praises it. Oh, yeah, we got a field goal before half. Well, if you didn't waste timeouts earlier in the half, maybe that could have been a touchdown.
Yep.
All right. It's those types of things that you can't you can't look at the little picture. You got to look at the bigger picture. You got to take the whole half. All right. Your first time out in the first half, you wasted because you couldn't get the personnel right in a goal-to-go situation. So you got to call a timeout. All right. The second timeout you take, you're 3rd and 18. All right. And the play clock's running out because you don't get the play in time. And you call a timeout because 3rd and 18 is much better than 3rd and 23. When all you're going to do is run a little quick hitch or a quick slant and hope that he breaks 2 or 3 tackles to get the first down. Again, that's not clock management. All right. So then you get the ball at the end of the half. You're in a 2-minute operation. You only have 1 timeout now instead of 2, if not 3. Because of your incompetence that happened earlier in the game. And that cost you points. Yeah. It changes the way you do things when you need the timeouts. That 2-minute drill is completely different if you have 2 or 3 timeouts as opposed to 1. And you know, and it's and if this was only the first, if this was a game that was the one off, okay, if it was just this circumstance of this game and everything else, okay, you could maybe forgive it. But it's not. It happens almost on a weekly basis with this team.
Yep.
And
And
and, and it's maddening to me as a former coach.
what really confuses me is that this staff, head office, front office, says we have a window. And we have these players for another extension of 2-3 years. And this is what, and you think that magic fairy dust of one player is going to change this? Dude, wouldn't you want to bring in an experienced veteran to try to resolve this? You're not going to, or are you just going to make us all suffer for another 3 years? It's not like it's not like your draft picks are developing into anything. Your draft picks are useless. You don't have Channing Tindall. You don't have Cam Smith. Yes, Jalen Wright and running backs are done. I appreciate Jalen Wright and Deron Achane, but you can get running backs anywhere. You can get free agent running backs. You could have gone to get Derrick Henry. You could have go get a lot of players, but you need to win football games with offensive linemen, defensive linemen, proper edge rushers, quarterbacks, safeties, linebackers. You're not doing that. You're completely building your team backwards, but now you have certain players in Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Teron Armstead and there's Zach Sealer in his best years at a cheap contract. And this is what you're giving us? Like we're going to be in Capel in a couple of years, and we're going to be in New Orleans Saints land, and you're doing nothing. You're just okay with this, and you let Mike McDaniel come up to the like I made a joke before, and it's in my headline, but we don't show it. But I believe, I don't know if do you follow hockey a little bit or not at all?
No, I follow.
So do you know who Gerard Gallant is?
Sure.
He's the former head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, the New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers, and the Vegas Golden Knights. Do you know that the Florida Panthers fired him when he was in Carolina, and they didn't even let him come on the plane? There's a picture of him having to take a taxi to the airport to get himself home. They should leave Mike McDaniel on the tarmac. Like, how do you allow this guy to lead you? Because the players like him. By the way, I don't know if you know, when you went to school, do you know which the classes most people did the worst in? Where they goofed off and the teachers didn't teach them anything. The teachers you did the best with are the teachers that kicked your ass. Do you think that Dan Campbell is a softie of a head coach? Do you think Andy Reid is a softie of a head coach? Do you think John Harbaugh is a softie of a head coach? The reason why the coaches that are winning football games, the guy with 7 Super Bowls, you want to know what? In Tampa Bay, they went from Bruce Arians to Todd Bowles. You think these guys are happy-go-lucky people? Not at all. What are you doing here exactly? Like this is football. It's a violent sport, and you have somebody who is literally the worst babysitter in the history of the world. It's like that babysitter that knows the parents are going to come home late and lets the kids rummage the snack drawer at midnight.
Yeah, the fact that there aren't any consequences for bad play, for mistake after mistake after mistake.
Nothing.
That's the part. Every week, Julian Hill does something stupid, and he's never gets taken off the field for it. You know, I mean, it just
Knowing me, they're probably going to announce in the next 2 weeks that they've extended Liam Eichenberg. Like this is the kind of franchise that this is the way it works. He's proven to us he could be our right guard, but he took a face mask. But what kind of offensive lineman takes a face masking penalty? How do you even get your hand that high? Your hand's supposed to be here, not up here, here.
It was I kind of forgive him for that one. He punched in the chest and his hand kind of.
But it's very Liam Eichenberg.
It's very. If it was anybody else on the offensive line, it would have been like, okay, you know, crap happens.
You just see Calais Campbell and Jack Sealer giving it their all. And can you imagine if they come off that field and they look up and they see the head coach of this football team and the 2 highest paid players on the outside, 2 highest paid wide receivers joking around?
Yeah, I saw that after I got back to the room, and I was like, the PR person for Miami's got to be just going, guys, come on, you can't be doing this on the sideline. You know the camera's on you at all times.
Oh, but they
No,
did this in the Buffalo game when Tua
oh,
was
I
injured.
know,
They were
I
sitting
know,
on the bench joking
I know,
around.
I know, and it just at some point,
You know what I feel? You know what I feel like every time they have the ball? I feel like every time they have the football, every play feels like Pete Carroll throwing the ball with a chance to win the Super Bowl versus giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. That's what I feel like. I feel like Mike McDaniel's about to do something stupid, and I don't trust him. And the problem is that no matter what, he can't even. Even if they had okay, they resurrect this season. They're not catching these teams. They'll be even if they were to resurrect it, so they get an away playoff game in either Baltimore or Kansas City or Buffalo. Like, what are we fighting for here? A play, the chance to maybe get the seventh seed and
so,
go into Kansas City and get our butts whipped again. What are we fighting for here? We can't. Tua's not going to bring us on a 12-game winning streak.
no, you know, the Bills overtaking the Dolphins at the end of last year to win the division is what's going to give Miami fans hope this year that being down 3 games with like 5 weeks to go,
Not a chance.
will happen. Yeah, but no, the Bills did it to us last year. We could do it to them this year.
Well, let's look at the schedule for a second.
It's not pretty.
Okay. Arizona, no gimme. Buffalo is a loss. Rams is no gimme on the road in prime time. Las Vegas, I think Wilkins might be able to be back for that game. He's on 4 games injured reserve. There's no guarantee on that one. New England, the way you played them last time, there's no guarantee. Green Bay, a loss. The Jets, if they're playing the way they played tonight, a loss. Houston, a loss. San Francisco, a loss. Cleveland, maybe a win, but it's going to be 8:20 at night in Cleveland, the freaking frigid tundra. And the Jets again at home. Like, I can actually see them winning maybe 4 football games this season. They could go 4-13.
No,
And he'll still be there. And they're going to say, well, it was injuries. Like, what is it? I want them. You want to know why I want them to lose? I want them to lose because Mike McDaniel is going to basically save his job. Tua is going to save his job. Tua could potentially save his job by going 9-8. And not making the playoffs. Because they're going to say, well, we had injuries, Chubb and Phillips and Tua. And it's just, I can't listen to this nonsense anymore. It's 24. Like, we used to have the Lions. We don't have anybody. Do you understand the drought we're in? There's no one behind us. It's like we're literally in last place of playoff wins. There's no one even close anymore. We're like years away.
No, I know. It's maddening to me. It's I I grew up in a time where Miami was a Super Bowl contender every year.
Yeah.
That was the talk. That was the media talk. And now, if you would have told me in the '90s that the Miami Dolphins would go 24 years without winning a playoff game, I would have said you're nuts. You're insane. And that's where we're at now. And I'm a Cubs fan. Okay, I know about ineptitude. As far as playoff wins and stuff like that.
Let me give you a perspective here. Why I'm wearing this hat? Kudos to Alan Poupart for jumping into our show before. I really appreciate him. Yeah. This hat, I grew up being able to go to a lot of baseball games in Montreal. We were a great team in the 80s and the 90s. The strike killed our chance to win a World Series in 1994. We became a farm system for all the teams, but every time I went to a ball game, I can get to that stadium for $5, sit wherever I wanted, move around, have a great time. You always knew that they were going to give you a show because we had the best farm system in the league. We weren't going to win after 94, but we were going to try. And we were going to develop players. And I can go watch Pedro Martinez throw a one-hitter or Carlos Perez or go watch we had this guy Henry Rodriguez who would hit home runs, and we threw Henrys on the field. And we had Larry Walker, and we had Marquise Grissom, and we had Moises Alou, and we had all these great developmental players coming through our system, and John Wetland, and we had all these great players, and we gave them. But you want to know what? They gave me more joy in my team from when I was a baby to when they left when I was 20 years old than the Dolphins have in my last 20 years. In my 20 years of memories of this team, of me being alive, the Dolphins have brought me to a point that I've never felt so low about a team. This is just embarrassing. And I yearn for 2019 because at least there was effort. And I'm not, people think that when I say Flores, I want Flores back. No, but there was an effort there. There was players who played for a reason. They were playing to earn a job in the NFL. Ryan Fitzpatrick, every play, he played it like it was his goddamn last. These guys couldn't care less if they win. They don't care. There's no effort. And Mike McDaniel has created a culture of ineptitude.
I don't want to say they don't care. I don't want to say that. It just...
But for Greg, I'm more annoyed. I was more annoyed after my kids' first minor league, house league hockey game today than they were.
That's probably true.
And I'm not mad in a bad way. I felt like they could have given more effort or this or that. There's a lot of things they could have done better. It's their first game or whatever. But these are professionals. They go home to their $1 million mansions tomorrow. They're going to go into this beautiful facility. They're going to relax. They're going to chill. Like they have to work hard, truly, for 5 months of the year, 6 months of the year, and they're sitting there. They get whiffed after one play and say, I don't feel like playing anymore. I'm going to go to the sideline. I don't feel like being on. And also, Greg, when Tyreek Hill goes off the field and Jalen Waddle are not on the field for third down, it's pretty obvious what the Dolphins are going to be doing. The defenses are salivating.
No, it's very predictable what's going to happen just by the personnel groupings and things like that right now.
Yeah.
And that's again, that's something. Well, again, I'm going to go back to old school and stuff like that here, but when we had a bye as a coaching staff, that week off before you started preparing for the next game was basically a self-scouting week. All right. What were your trends? What did you like to do? Was there something that the other team could pick up from what we were doing? What do we need to change and things like that? I don't see any self-scouting going on here. All right. They have more computing power and more analytical ability than I could ever have dreamed of when I was coaching. All right. So they got to have all of this stuff at their fingertips, yet they seem very predictable. Okay. Especially with their personnel groupings. You take your best players off the field, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, I'm just watching right now, just peeking in. Do you know before it was about a 15-6 lead? They were saying to the Steelers are playing now Russell Wilson, who hasn't played all year, injuries, all this, and now it's 15-13. It's becoming a tighter game, 15-13 in Pittsburgh right now. They're keeping it close with Aaron Rodgers, everything like that. These are like, even no matter what you say about the Jets, there's at least a sense of accountability for there. Yeah. There's accountability in Pittsburgh. We're that team that literally no one's worried about. If I'm facing the Dolphins, I'm not worried. I'm not concerned about winning. Like, how sad is that? You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I'm not worried about facing you because we know they're not going to. Mike McDaniel's going to outsmart himself and forget to use them.
It's a bad place to be right now.
Yes, it is.
It's a bad place to be.
Anyways, guys, I'm sure Greg has to head out. Are you heading back to Miami to Orlando tomorrow?
No, I'm flying to Vegas.
Personal or fun? Personal or work?
One day of work, 2 days of personal. The wife and I are going to go see Lenny Kravitz in Vegas on Wednesday.
Very nice. Don't forget to check out don't forget to check out Sphere.
Oh no, we've been to the Sphere.
You've been inside?
Yes.
What
We
have
saw
you seen inside? U2?
We saw U2 there.
Oh,
Yeah.
good for you. That's amazing.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out the network throughout the week with all the shows that we have between baseball, hockey. Hopefully, we're having up with a hockey show coming up soon in combination with 305 Sports Talk. I'm sure that Steve will have a lot to say on Real Talk Rants. We have a lot of different shows going on. At least the one thing that this network can enjoy is the fact that I would take a Cam Ward 52-45. At least the Hurricanes are entertaining. Even though they're giving up a lot of points, at least the Miami Hurricanes are undefeated and giving the Dolphins a run for their money. Like, this is really an embarrassment. Like, the Hurricanes were bad forever, but now they're at least coming around. Us? Mike, think about this. Mario Cristobal's in year 3. Mike McDaniel's in year 3. I think Mario Cristobal is past Mike McDaniel.
Well, absolutely. And I would say, the Miami Hurricanes scored more in one game than we score in a month.
Mm.
So,
by the way, this guy's a pretty nice guy. You know this guy?
Yeah, that guy, he's all right.
Older or younger?
Younger. I'm the oldest of 3 brothers.
He's the youngest?
He's the youngest.
Is he a Dolphins fan?
He's a Dolphins fan, and
Okay.
he's about 6'6", and he's a big, angry gentleman. Let's put it this way.
So he basically do a better job than Liam Eichenberg.
He's a big dude.
Do we bring him in for Liam?
We could probably do that.
Anyways, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate all of you. Don't forget to just check out our network and support us. We really appreciate it, because no matter what, we're still going to be drinking the Kool-Aid of Miami Dolphins, as bad as they are. All I can hope for is that I can't lose here. Either they somehow get better, and I won't apologize because it won't last, or they'll suck and they'll do what I want and they'll fire everybody. So one or two things are going to happen. So either way, I'll be smiling.
Let's hope. Evan,
Exactly.
we'll talk later, buddy.
Greg, have a great time in Vegas, guys.
Yep.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, fins up.